So now we want to utilize Illustrator's second type feature, which is area type, to create text boxes. Now we can create single boxes or divide them into columns, and in fact we can turn any shape into an object inside which text can flow. So let's start out by creating a simple rectangular text frame. What we're going to do is do it up here on our A4 page and drop in some columns of type. So let's zoom up over here. Scroll over so we can have everything in the center. Let's come over to the layers panel and make sure that down at the bottom here, in fact we can always expand this a little more so we see all of our layers. Let's go ahead and turn on the A4 guides, okay, our original guides, and remember we created these areas here in which our text would sit. And now that we have a logo, we will need the text to sit above that, but that's going to be easy enough to do. Now let's make sure at this point we have our type layer selected and unlocked, because this is where all of our type is now going to exist. Remember, everything else was on the logos layer. Now we're going to make sure we have our smart guides turned back on, so we have our intersections making it easier for us to draw, and we'll hit M to give us our rectangle tool, okay? Our fill color is currently set to white, which is absolutely perfect. That's just what I need. So I'm going to click and drag from the upper left hand side of our guides here to the right hand side, and then start to drag down until I finish maybe just above our logo, all right? It doesn't really matter how close we get. We can always adjust it later on. Now you see that with smart guides, occasionally things just slip over the guide that you're looking at. In this case, it's tried to align to something underneath. So like I say, smart guides are phenomenal. You sometimes really want to work with or without them. So in this case, all we need to do is hit E for free transform, grab that right hand side and snap it straight into our guide there. Okay, so everything's very easily changeable. Now with all this in mind, what I'm going to do is go back to the main selection tool, turn off our guides down here so we can see this object on its own. Now remember earlier on our A3, if I just scroll over here, we created a single frame, just like we've done now, and we divided it using our split to grid function into 6 individual columns. Well, the reason for that is we had a desire to use the direct selection tool to change the shape of each of these manually to represent this mountain shape at the bottom, and it looks absolutely wonderful, okay? But it's a permanent thing, and that's totally fine for this instance. Well, on our A4 page, we simply want this text frame to be divided into columns in a similar way, but Illustrator has a live option that can do that non-destructively, so we can change our minds later, which is always a good thing. So let's start out by turning this into a text area, and the reason I'll show you why. If we leave it as it is and go up to the type menu and go down and choose area type options, the object is not an area type object, so we can't access any of these elements, okay? So in order to turn this into an area type box, all we do is select your type tool, position your cursor over it. Now, there are different ways in which the cursor will show up. If we're in the middle here and it shows up square, the little dotted line around the outside is exactly the same as if we're out here. That would create a single line of type, just like we did on our logo. If we position the cursor inside a shape, as we go towards its edge, you'll see the cursor changes to be slightly rounded. This is your area type tool. If you now click on this, you've now turned this box into an area frame, and we can now type text directly inside it. So I've quickly just typed in a sentence there, like this is where type goes. You can put whatever you want in, just a random number of letters if you like. Then I'm going to select all, Command A or Control A, and make sure we come over to our color panel and fill with white so we can actually see the type. Now the styling of this is going to take on the last format of type that we use, so we really need to change this because it's not a headline. This is going to be some form of body type. So let's come over to our control panel here at the top. Let's go into our font option, and maybe we'll scroll up and choose something, I don't know, maybe just a simple Helvetica will do for now. We'll change it from bold back to regular, and we'll drop the size down to maybe something more manageable, around 14 point, something like that. It doesn't really matter. We're going to change all of this in just a short while. But what we can now do is come back over to the main selection tool. Again, you don't use the V key there because we'll just add type. But now that we have an area type frame, we can go up to the type menu and go down and choose the area type options. Now it's very similar to the split to grid function, but like I said, this is live, non-destructive. So let's go ahead and turn on preview, and in the columns value here, let's change this to say 3 columns. And once again, we'll make sure our gutter is 5 millimeters, so it matches the same value we have over here on our A3 poster. Again, consistency is the key. If we go ahead now and click OK, we can see it is indeed a 3-column layout, but this, like I say, is changeable in the future. So a good way to start out.